It was one of those lazy summer afternoons where everything seemed slower. The sun hung high in the sky, casting long shadows along the empty stretch of road that led out of town. Birds chirped faintly in the distance, and the occasional breeze rustled through the trees. Marcus and Jordan Carter were pedaling their bikes back home after spending hours at the local basketball court. Their game had been cut short when another group showed up, claiming they needed the court for practice. Not wanting any trouble, the brothers decided to call it a day. As they rode side by side, laughing about nothing in particular, something caught Marcus's eye. Up ahead, near the edge of the road, stood a shiny silver car pulled over onto the shoulder. Its hazard lights blinked steadily, reflecting off the asphalt. A man in a dark suit leaned against the hood, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. He looked annoyed, staring down at one of the tires with a scowl on his face. "Hey, check it out," Marcus said, slowing his bike. "Looks like someone's having car trouble." Jordan followed his gaze and shrugged. "Probably just some rich guy who doesn't know how to change a tire." Marcus grinned. "Well, maybe we should help him. You remember what Uncle Joe taught us, right?" Jordan groaned. "Do we have to? It's hot out here and I'm starving." But Marcus was already hopping off his bike and walking toward the car. Reluctantly, Jordan trailed behind him. As they approached, the man turned to look at them. His expression softened slightly when he saw the two boys standing there, sweat glistening on their foreheads from the heat. "You lost or something?" the man asked, his voice deep but not unkind. "Nope," Marcus replied confidently. "We saw your car and figured you might need help. That tire looks pretty flat." The man sighed and stepped aside, gesturing toward the back of the car. "You're probably right. Truth is, I don't even know where to start. This isn't exactly my area of expertise." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "What kind of person drives around without knowing how to fix a flat tire?" The man chuckled softly. "A busy one, I guess. Name's Charles, by the way." "I'm Marcus, and this is my brother Jordan." Marcus introduced them quickly, before getting to work. He popped open the trunk and rummaged around until he found the spare tire and jack. Meanwhile, Jordan grabbed a rag from his pocket and wiped his hands clean before joining in. For the next 15 minutes, the brothers worked efficiently, their movements practiced and precise. Marcus positioned the jack under the car while Jordan loosened the lug nuts with a wrench. They moved in sync, almost as if they'd done this 100 times before, which, thanks to their uncle, they practically had. Charles watched silently, occasionally offering words of encouragement or asking questions about what they were doing. "So, do you guys always stop to help random strangers on the side of the road?" Charles asked, breaking the silence. Marcus shrugged. "Not really. But Mom always says if you can help somebody, you should." Charles nodded thoughtfully. "Your mom sounds like a smart woman." "She is," Jordan chimed in, finally speaking up. "She works super hard to take care of us. We try to make her proud." By the time they finished tightening the last lug nut, the sun had dipped lower in the sky, painting the horizon orange and pink. Marcus stood up, brushing dirt off his knees, and handed the wrench back to Charles. "All done. Just be careful driving on it until you get it replaced properly." Charles looked genuinely impressed and relieved. "I can't thank you enough. Honestly, I don't know what I would have done without you two." "It's no big deal," Marcus said with a smile. "Anyone else would have done the same." Charles reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. He handed each boy a crisp $50 bill. "Here, consider it a token of my gratitude." Marcus and Jordan exchanged surprised glances. They hadn't expected anything in return, let alone money. "Wow, thanks," Marcus stammered, stuffing the bill into his pocket. "Yeah, thanks," Jordan echoed, still a little stunned. As they climbed back onto their bikes and waved goodbye, neither boy gave much thought to the encounter beyond how lucky they felt. Little did they know, their simple act of kindness would lead to something far bigger than either of them could have imagined. The next day passed normally for Marcus and Jordan. They woke up early, ate breakfast with their mom, Lisa, and spent most of the afternoon playing video games and talking about random things, like whether pineapple belonged on pizza or which superhero was the strongest. Lisa worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table and make sure her boys had everything they needed. Life wasn't always easy, but the Carters stuck together no matter what. That evening, as the sun began to set, the family gathered around the small dining table for dinner. Lisa had cooked spaghetti, one of their favorites, and the smell filled the cozy kitchen. The mood was light, with laughter echoing off the walls as Jordan told an exaggerated story about how he'd dunked a basketball earlier that day. Just as they were finishing dessert, a simple chocolate pudding Lisa had whipped up, the sound of tires rolling over gravel broke the quiet hum of the neighborhood. Marcus glanced toward the window and frowned. "Mom, there's a car outside." Lisa wiped her hands on a dish towel and walked over to peek through the curtain. Outside, a shiny black SUV sat idling by the curb. Its tinted windows made it impossible to see who was inside. For a moment, everyone stayed silent, unsure what to think. Then the driver's door opened and a tall woman stepped out. She wore a navy blue suit that looked expensive and carried herself with confidence. Her heels clicked softly against the pavement as she approached the front door. Before anyone could react, the doorbell rang, startling them all. "I'll get it," Marcus said, standing up. He straightened his shirt nervously before opening, the door just wide enough to peek outside. The woman smiled warmly, though there was something unreadable in her eyes. "Hi," she said. "My name is Victoria Lane. I'm here on behalf of Charles Whitmore. Do you remember him?" Marcus blinked in surprise. "Oh yeah, the guy from yesterday with the flat tire. What's this about?" Victoria nodded. "Mr. Whitmore wanted to personally thank you and your family again for your kindness. He's invited you all to visit his estate this weekend if you're available." Jordan appeared behind Marcus, curiosity getting the better of him. "His estate? Like a mansion?" Victoria chuckled lightly. "Something like that. It's nothing too formal, just a chance for him to show his appreciation properly." Lisa stepped forward, folding her arms across her chest. "Excuse me, Ms. Lane, but forgive me for asking. Why would Mr. Whitmore go through so much trouble for something as small as helping with a tire?" Victoria hesitated for a split second, then replied smoothly. "Let's just say Mr. Whitmore values acts of kindness more than most people realize. And after meeting your sons, he felt compelled to do something special." Lisa exchanged a glance with Marcus and Jordan. On one hand, the invitation sounded incredible, an opportunity to see a real-life mansion and meet someone important. On the other hand, it felt strange, almost too good to be true. Still, Lisa didn't want to turn down such a generous offer without giving it some thought. "Well," Lisa said finally, "we appreciate the gesture. Let me talk it over with my boys and we'll let you know." Victoria nodded politely. "Of course. Take your time. Here's my card if you have any questions." She handed Lisa a sleek business card before stepping back toward the SUV. As she drove away, the 3 Carters stood in silence, watching the taillights disappear into the distance. Once the car was gone, Jordan turned to his mom. "So, are we going?" Lisa sighed, rubbing her temples. "I don't know, sweetheart. This feels a little odd. Why would a billionaire care so much about us changing a tire?" Marcus shrugged. "Maybe he's just really grateful. Or maybe he's lonely. Either way, it's not every day we get invited to a mansion." Lisa couldn't argue with that. After a long pause, she looked at her sons. "If we go, we need to be careful. Something about this doesn't sit right with me." Despite her reservations deep down, Lisa knew they wouldn't say no. It was an adventure, and adventures didn't come knocking on their door very often. Besides, Marcus and Jordan seemed genuinely excited, and who was she to deny them a little excitement? Over the next few days, the Carters prepared for the trip. Lisa ironed their best clothes while Marcus and Jordan debated endlessly about what they should bring. Would there be fancy dinners? Should they wear suits? What if Charles Whitmore asked them to play basketball with him? Their imaginations ran wild, filling the house with chatter and laughter. On the morning of the visit, the family piled into Lisa's old sedan and set off toward the address Victoria had provided. The drive took longer than expected, leading them far beyond the familiar streets of their neighborhood. Eventually, they arrived at a gated entrance surrounded by tall hedges and security cameras. A guard checked their names against a list before waving them through. As they drove up the winding driveway, the mansion came into view. It was even more impressive than they'd imagined. Sprawling lawns, sparkling fountains, and towering columns that made it look like something out of a movie. Marcus whistled softly, while Jordan gawked openly. Even Lisa couldn't help but stare in awe. When they reached the front door, Charles himself greeted them. He looked exactly as he had the day before, except now he wore a friendly smile instead of a worried frown. "Welcome," he said warmly, shaking each of their hands. "I can't tell you how much." After lunch, Charles led the Carters deeper into his mansion. At first, they thought he was simply giving them a tour, showing off the grand library, the indoor pool, and the state-of-the-art kitchen. But then, he stopped at what appeared to be an ordinary bookshelf in a quiet corner of the house. With a sly smile, he pressed a hidden button, and the shelf slid aside to reveal a hidden elevator. "This way," Charles said, gesturing for them to step inside. Marcus and Jordan exchanged wide-eyed glances. This wasn't just a mansion, it was like something out of a spy movie. Even Lisa seemed momentarily stunned as she followed her sons into the elevator. The doors closed smoothly, and the car descended silently into the ground. When they emerged, they found themselves in a massive underground room that looked like a cross between a laboratory and a command center. Screens covered the walls, displaying streams of data, maps, and schematics. Holograms floated in midair, showing designs for futuristic machines and weapons. Tools and gadgets lay neatly organized on workbenches, their surfaces gleaming under soft blue lights. "Welcome to my secret workshop," Charles announced, spreading his arms wide. "This is where I've been working on something special." Lisa frowned, stepping closer to her boys protectively. "What exactly are we looking at?" Charles hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "You might have heard about advancements in artificial intelligence or autonomous defense systems. Well, I've been developing technology that could change the world, or at least keep it safer." He pointed to one of the screens, which showed a drone hovering above a battlefield. "These drones can identify threats faster than any human ever could. They're designed to neutralize danger without risking innocent lives." Jordan tilted his head, studying the image. "So, like, robot soldiers?" "In a way, yes," Charles replied. "But these aren't meant to start wars, they're meant to end them. Or prevent them altogether." Marcus stepped forward, his curiosity outweighing his caution. "Why show us all this? We're just kids." Charles smiled faintly. "Because you've already proven yourselves trustworthy. You helped me when I needed it most, and you didn't ask for anything in return. That kind of character is rare these days." Lisa crossed her arms, her voice firm. "Mr. Whitmore, with all due respect, why involve my sons in whatever it is you're doing?" "This seems dangerous," Charles nodded, acknowledging her concern. "You're absolutely right, it is dangerous. There are people who don't want this technology to exist, governments, corporations, even criminals. They'd do anything to get their hands on it, and lately they've been getting closer." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The flat tire wasn't an accident. Someone tampered with my car, hoping to strand me somewhere isolated. Whoever it was knew I carry sensitive information everywhere I go. If not for Marcus and Jordan, I might have fallen right into their trap." The room fell silent as the weight of his confession settled over them. Lisa's expression hardened. "Are you saying my boys are in danger now because of you?" "No," Charles said quickly. "Not unless we let them be. That's why I need your help. Not just yours, but theirs too. I'm not asking them to fight or risk their lives. I just need their minds, their creativity, their resourcefulness." Marcus glanced at Jordan, then back at Charles. "What would we even do?" "For starters," Charles began, walking over to a table covered in strange-looking devices, "I've created prototypes of tools that could help counteract some of the threats we're facing. Gadgets that can hack into enemy systems, drones that can scout ahead undetected, even personal shields that could protect against attacks. But I need fresh perspectives to test them, to find flaws I might miss." He picked up a small device resembling a wristwatch. Take this, for example. It's supposed to project a hologram to confuse pursuers. But I need someone agile and quick thinking to see if it actually works in real-world scenarios. Jordan raised an eyebrow. So basically, you want us to play with your toys and tell you if they break? Charles chuckled. In a manner of speaking, yes, though I assure you there's nothing childish about what we're building here. Lisa still looked skeptical. And what happens if someone finds out they're helping you? What if those same people come after them? I won't let that happen, Charles promised. I have top-notch security measures in place. Plus, I'll make sure your family is protected every step of the way. Despite his assurances, Lisa wasn't fully convinced. She turned to her sons, searching their faces. Marcus looked eager, his eyes shining with excitement. Jordan, on the other hand, seemed torn. Part of him wanted to jump in, but another part was wary of the risks. What do you think? Lisa asked softly. Marcus spoke first. Mom, this could be our chance to do something important. Something bigger than ourselves. Jordan nodded slowly. Yeah, and besides, if we don't help, who will? Lisa sighed deeply, torn between her instincts as a protective mother and her desire to support her son's dreams. Finally, she looked at Charles. If they agree to this, you swear to me they'll be safe? I give you my word, Charles said solemnly. With that, the decision was made. Over the next hour, Charles explained more details about the project, answering questions and addressing concerns. By the time they left the underground lab, Marcus and Jordan were buzzing with ideas, while Lisa remained quietly uneasy, but determined to trust Charles for now. As they drove home that evening, the brothers couldn't stop talking about everything they'd seen. To them, it felt like the beginning of an incredible adventure. But deep down, Lisa knew they were stepping into a world far more complicated and dangerous than either of them realized. Over the next few days, Marcus and Jordan threw themselves into helping Charles. They spent hours in the underground lab, testing gadgets, running simulations, and learning how to use the tools he'd created. At first, it felt like playing with toys. Everything was shiny, high-tech, and exciting. But as they delved deeper into the project, they began to understand just how serious things were. One afternoon, Charles gathered them around a large monitor displaying grainy surveillance footage. On the screen, shadowy figures moved through dark alleyways, their faces obscured by hoods. These are some of the people who've been following me, Charles explained, his voice low and steady. They're not amateurs. Whoever they work for has deep pockets and dangerous intentions. Marcus leaned closer, squinting at the screen. Do you know who they are? Charles shook his head. Not yet, but I'm working on it. For now, we need to stay one step ahead of them. Jordan frowned, picking up a small device from the table, a gadget designed to scramble electronic signals. So what happens if they catch us? They won't, Charles said firmly. Not if we're careful. That's why I need you two to focus on mastering these tools. If anything goes wrong, you'll have ways to protect yourselves. The Yao brothers exchanged uneasy glances but nodded. Despite their nerves, they couldn't deny the thrill of being part of something so important. Every day brought new challenges and new discoveries. One evening, after another long session in the lab, Marcus and Jordan returned home to find their mom waiting up for them. Lisa sat at the kitchen table, her arms crossed and her brow furrowed. When they walked in, she fixed them with a stern look. All right, she said, tapping her fingers on the table. What's really going on? Don't give me that it's fine nonsense. I can tell something's bothering you. Marcus hesitated, glancing at Jordan before sitting down across from her. It's complicated, Mom. Mr. Whitmore showed us some stuff today. Stuff about the people trying to stop him. Lisa's eyes narrowed. What kind of stuff? Jordan sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Like spies or something. People watching him, following him. He thinks they might come after us too. Lisa's face paled. Are you telling me my sons are being targeted because of this man? No, Marcus quickly interjected. Well, maybe, but Mr. Whitmore says he's got security everywhere, and he gave us these gadgets to keep us safe. Lisa stood up abruptly, pacing the room. Gadgets? Gadgets aren't going to stop someone who wants to hurt you. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You're just kids. You shouldn't be mixed up in any of this. We're not just kids, Mom, Marcus argued, his voice rising slightly. We're smart, we're capable, and we're helping him make the world safer. Isn't that worth it? Lisa stopped pacing and turned to face him, her eyes softening. Of course it's worth it. But your safety comes first. Always. Before she could say more, the sound of tires crunching on gravel interrupted them. Everyone froze, staring out the window as headlights swept across the living room walls. A black car pulled up outside their house, its engine idling quietly. Who is that? Lisa whispered, her heart pounding. Marcus peeked through the curtains cautiously. I don't know. It's not Mr. Whitmore's SUV. The car sat there for several minutes, unmoving. No one got out. Finally, it drove away, disappearing into the night. The Carters stayed silent, the tension in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. The next morning, Marcus told Charles about the mysterious car. To his surprise, Charles didn't seem shocked. He looked almost grimly satisfied. I was afraid of this, Charles muttered, pulling up a map on one of the lab's screens. They're testing us, seeing how close they can get without tipping their hand. What does that mean? Jordan asked nervously. It means we need to tighten security around your home, Charles replied. And you'll need to start carrying. The strange occurrences outside their home kept piling up, making it hard for Marcus and Jordan to ignore the growing unease that had settled over their family. Every time they stepped outside, they couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was watching them. It wasn't just paranoia anymore. The signs were too obvious to dismiss. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across their neighborhood, Marcus and Jordan decided to take a walk. Their mom, Lisa, had been insistent about them staying indoors after dark, but they needed fresh air and answers. If someone was following them, they wanted to know who it was and what they wanted. As they strolled down the sidewalk, chatting casually to appear relaxed, Marcus noticed a man in a hoodie lingering near a tree up ahead. His posture was casual, but there was something off about him. The hood covered most of his face, and he seemed more interested in observing than moving on. Do you see that guy? Marcus whispered, nudging Jordan's arm. Jordan glanced over, pretending to laugh at something Marcus said. Yeah, I see. Him. He's been standing there since we left the house. They slowed their pace, debating whether to confront him or turn back. Before they could decide, the man suddenly shifted, stepping deeper into the shadows before disappearing entirely. Marcus clenched his fists, his heart racing. This isn't normal, Jordan muttered, glancing around nervously. What do we do? Marcus pulled out the keychain gadget Charles had given them. We stick together and stay alert. If anything feels wrong, we press this button. They continued walking, trying to act natural, but their eyes darted constantly toward every movement in the darkness. When they finally reached the end of the block, they turned back toward home, only to find the same black car from the other night parked nearby. Its engine was off and no one sat inside, but the sight sent chills down their spines. When they got home, they told Lisa everything. She listened quietly, her jaw tightening with each detail. Once they finished, she immediately called Charles. We've got a problem, she said bluntly when he answered. Someone's been watching my boys. They saw a guy in a hoodie tonight and that same car keeps showing up. This has gone far enough. Charles didn't hesitate. I'll send a security team to your house within the hour. Stay inside until they arrive, and make sure Marcus and Jackson carry those gadgets everywhere. True to his word, 2 armed guards arrived shortly afterward. They introduced themselves as part of Charles's private security detail and set up posts outside the house. Lisa appreciated the extra protection, but having strangers stationed near her home made the situation feel even more real and frightening. The next day, Charles invited the Carters back to his estate. This time the mood was far more serious. As soon as they arrived, he led them straight to the underground lab. I need to show you something, Charles said, his tone grave. He brought up footage on one of the monitors, a grainy video feed, showing a man in a hoodie sneaking around the Carters' neighborhood. This was taken last night. Whoever this is, they're getting bolder. Lisa crossed her arms, her voice sharp. Positive. Are you telling me my sons aren't safe even in their own home? I'm saying we're dealing with professionals, Charles replied. But we're ready for them. Here's what we're going to do. Starting today, Marcus and Jordan will train with Victoria. She'll teach them how to use some of the advanced tools I've developed, not just for testing, but for actual self-defense. Victoria stepped forward, nodding politely. It won't be easy, but I promise you'll learn quickly. These skills might save your lives. Marcus and Jordan exchanged determined looks. They weren't thrilled about the idea of being targeted, but they refused to let fear control them. If training meant protecting themselves and their mom, they were willing to do whatever it took. Over the next week, Victoria put the boys through rigorous drills. They practiced using holographic decoys to confuse potential attackers, learned how to activate personal shields in emergencies, and even tested miniature drones designed to scout areas ahead of them. At first, the gadgets felt awkward and complicated, but with practice they became second nature. One afternoon, while practicing with a drone, Marcus accidentally flew it into a wall, causing it to crash to the floor. Frustrated, he knelt to pick it up, examining the damage. This is useless, he snapped. What if it breaks when we actually need it? Victoria placed a calming hand on his shoulder. Mistakes happen. That's why we train, to minimize errors. Besides, these devices are built to withstand tough conditions. Trust me, they'll work when it counts. Jordan chimed in, holding up a wristwatch-like gadget. Yeah, but what if we freeze? What if we panic and forget how to use them? You won't, Victoria assured him. Not if you keep pushing yourselves. Fear is natural, but preparation gives you power. Despite the challenges, Marcus and Jordan began to gain confidence. They realized that the gadgets weren't just tools, they were lifelines. And the more they trained, the less afraid they felt. Meanwhile, Lisa struggled with her own fears. Watching her sons transform into brave, capable young men filled her with pride, but also dread. She knew they were stepping into a world far beyond their years, one where danger lurked around every corner. Still, she reminded herself that running wouldn't solve anything. They had to face this head-on. One evening, as the family sat together in the living room, Marcus looked at his mom and smiled. Don't worry, Mom, we've got this. Mr. Whitmore believes in us, and so do we. Lisa hugged him tightly, tears welling up in her eyes. Just promise me you'll be careful. You're all I have. We will, Jordan promised, joining. The hug. No matter what happens, we'll stick together. As they held each other close, none of them knew what the future held, but they were ready to face it, side by side. Things seemed to be improving, or at least stabilizing, for Marcus and Jordan. With Victoria's guidance, they were becoming more skilled at using the gadgets Charles had developed. They practiced tirelessly, determined to master every tool and technique. For the first time since the mysterious car appeared outside their house, they began to feel like they might actually have a chance against whoever was targeting them. But just when they thought they were gaining ground, everything changed. One morning, Charles called the Carters back to the estate. His tone over the phone was unusually urgent, and when they arrived, he wasted no time getting to the point. He led them straight to the underground lab where a large monitor displayed documents, photos, and surveillance footage, all pointing to one person, Victoria Lane. I didn't want to believe it, Charles said, his voice heavy with disappointment. But the evidence is undeniable. Victoria has been leaking information to our enemies. Marcus stared at the screen in shock. Wait, Victoria, but she's been helping us this whole time. Charles nodded grimly. Exactly. That's why it hurts so much. She had access to everything, our plans, our technology, even your location. He pointed to a section of the screen showing encrypted messages sent from Victoria's phone to unknown recipients. She gave them details about our security measures and left gaps for them to exploit. Jordan shook his head, struggling to process what he was hearing. Why would she do that? Money, Charles replied bitterly. Or maybe something worse. Whatever her reasons, she betrayed us, and now we're paying the price. Lisa stepped forward, her voice firm. What does this mean for my boys? Are they in more danger because of her? Charles hesitated before answering. Yes, but not just them. Everyone involved in Project Horizon is at risk. If the syndicate gets their hands on this technology, it could be catastrophic. Over. The next hour, Charles explained what he knew about the syndicate, a shadowy organization made up of rogue agents, corrupt officials, and rival corporations. Their goal was simple: acquire Charles's inventions and use them for their own gain, regardless of the consequences. They've been trying to infiltrate my operation for months, Charles continued. I thought I'd covered all my bases, but I underestimated Victoria. Her betrayal gave them exactly what they needed to close in on us. Marcus clenched his fists, anger bubbling inside him. So, what do we do now? Wait around for them? To attack? No, Charles said firmly. We strike first. We expose the syndicate and cut off their resources, but to do that I need your help more than ever. He handed each boy a sleek new device, a combination tracker and communicator designed to keep them connected to his team at all times. These will ensure you're never alone. If anything happens, press the emergency button and backup will arrive within minutes. Jordan took the gadget reluctantly, still reeling from the news about Victoria. Do you think she'll come after us? She won't get the chance, Charles assured them. I've already revoked her access to the estate and alerted the authorities. Right now she's running scared, but that doesn't mean she's out of the picture completely. That night, as the Carters returned home, the weight of the situation pressed heavily on them. Lisa locked all the doors and windows, double-checking each one despite the presence of the security guards stationed outside. Inside, Marcus and Jordan sat on the couch staring silently at the gadgets in their hands. This feels messed up, Jordan finally said, breaking the silence. We trusted her. She acted like she cared about us. Marcus sighed, rubbing his temples. Yeah, but we can't let it distract us. Mr. Whitmore needs us to stay focused. The attack on the Carter home changed everything. It wasn't just a warning or a test anymore. It was proof that the syndicate meant business. For Marcus and Jordan, the reality of the danger they were in hit harder than ever before. They had faced armed intruders in their own living room, fought back using the skills and gadgets they'd been training with, and barely escaped unscathed. But deep down, they knew this was only the beginning. Charles wasted no time regrouping. The very next morning, he gathered the Carters at his estate, bringing them straight to the underground lab. This time there was no small talk, only urgency. On one of the large monitors, he pulled up detailed information about the syndicate, their leaders, their locations, and their plans. We've identified several key members, Charles explained, pointing to photos and profiles displayed on the screen. These are the people pulling the strings. They're smart, resourceful, and dangerous, but they're not invincible. Marcus frowned, studying the images. How do we stop them? Charles turned to face him, his expression resolute. By hitting them where it hurts most, their resources. If we can dismantle their network, we cut off their ability to operate. Jordan raised an eyebrow. And how exactly do we do that? We're just kids. You're more than that, Charles replied firmly. You've already proven yourselves capable of handling pressure. Now I need you to step up even further. You'll be part of a coordinated effort to expose the syndicate's operations and bring them down. He handed each boy a new gadget, a compact device designed to hack into secure systems and retrieve critical data. These will help us gather evidence against them, but timing is crucial. One wrong move, and they'll disappear without a trace. Lisa watched silently, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. She wanted to protest, to insist that her sons stay out of harm's way, but she knew it was pointless. Marcus and Jordan had already chosen to fight alongside Charles, and truthfully, she couldn't blame them. After what happened last night, running away wasn't an option. They had to finish this. Over the next few days, Charles devised a plan. Using intel gathered from intercepted communications and surveillance footage, he pinpointed one of the syndicate's main hubs, a warehouse, on the outskirts of town used for smuggling stolen technology. If they could infiltrate the facility, they might be able to plant tracking devices and uncover evidence linking the group to its criminal activities. Here's the tricky part, Charles admitted during a briefing in the lab. We can't send in my team, they'd be spotted immediately. That's why I'm asking you two to go in instead. Marcus and Jordan exchanged nervous glances. Us? Jordan asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Alone? You won't be alone, Charles reassured them. My team will be nearby, ready to extract you if anything goes wrong, and you'll have these. He gestured to the gadgets in their hands. Use them wisely. Victoria's betrayal still lingered in their minds, making trust feel fragile. But Marcus and Jordan nodded, knowing they didn't have a choice. If they wanted to protect their family and themselves, they had to take the risk. The mission arrived quickly. Dressed in dark clothes and equipped with their gadgets, Marcus and Jordan climbed into a nondescript van, driven by one of Charles's operatives. The ride to the warehouse was quiet, the tension palpable as they mentally prepared for what lay ahead. When they arrived, the area looked deserted except for a few guards patrolling the perimeter. Using a drone provided by Charles, the boys scouted the layout of the building, identifying weak points in the security system. Once they had a clear path, they slipped inside through a side door left slightly ajar. The interior of the warehouse was dimly lit, filled with crates and machinery. Marcus and Jordan moved cautiously, sticking to the shadows as they made their way deeper into the facility. Their goal was simple: plant tracking devices on as many crates as possible and locate any documents or computers containing valuable information. At first, everything went smoothly. They worked quickly and quietly, avoiding detection. But just as they reached a central office filled with computer terminals, alarms blared suddenly, startling them both. "They know we're here," Jordan whispered urgently, his heart racing. "Keep calm," Marcus replied, activating a holographic decoy to confuse the guards rushing toward them. "Stick to the plan." While the guards chased after the fake projections, Marcus hacked into one of the computers, downloading files onto a portable drive. Meanwhile, Jordan planted the last of the tracking devices inside a nearby crate. "Let's go," Marcus urged, grabbing the drive and heading for the exit. But as they retraced their steps, they found their path blocked by two armed guards. Trapped, they froze, unsure of what to do next. Before panic could set in, a loud crash echoed through the warehouse. A team of Charles's operatives burst in, engaging the guards and creating enough chaos for Marcus and Jordan to slip past unnoticed. Heart pounding, they sprinted toward the van waiting outside, jumping inside just as the engine roared to life. As they sped away from the scene, Marcus and Jordan collapsed against the seats, adrenaline coursing through their veins. They had done it. They had completed the mission. But the victory felt bittersweet, knowing the fight was far from over. Back at Charles's estate, the team reviewed the data they had collected. The files contained damning evidence against the syndicate, including names, financial records, and operational details. With this information, Charles could finally expose the organization to the authorities. "You did good," Charles told the boys, his voice filled with pride. "Better than I could have hoped for." Marcus smiled faintly, exhaustion written all over his face. "Does this mean it's over?" Charles shook his head. "Not yet, but we're closer than ever. Thanks to you, we've struck a major blow against them." For the first time in weeks, Marcus and Jordan allowed themselves to feel a glimmer of hope. The road ahead would still be dangerous, but they had proven they could handle whatever came their way. Together, they were ready to see this through, to the end. The evidence Marcus and Jordan had gathered during their daring mission proved invaluable. With Charles's help, the information was handed over to federal authorities, who launched a massive operation against the syndicate. Raids were conducted across multiple cities, leading to arrests of key members and the dismantling of their criminal networks. News outlets buzzed with headlines about the secretive organization's downfall, though few knew the full story behind it. or the role played by two brave brothers from a quiet suburban neighborhood. For Marcus and Jordan, life slowly began, returning to normal. The constant fear of being watched or targeted faded as days turned into weeks without incident. Charles ensured that top-tier security remained in place around their home, but the sense of danger no longer loomed over every corner. Instead, there was relief and pride. One sunny afternoon, Charles organized a small gathering at the Carters' house to thank them publicly for their courage. Neighbors, friends, and even local officials attended, eager to celebrate the family's unexpected rise to hero status. A banner hung above the porch read, "Community Heroes," and laughter filled the air as people shared food, stories, and gratitude. As Marcus and Jordan stood beside their mom, basking in the attention, they couldn't help but feel surreal about how much their lives had changed. What started as a simple act of kindness, helping a stranger with a flat tire, had spiraled into something far greater. They had faced danger, betrayal, and uncertainty, yet emerged stronger than ever. Charles stepped forward, raising a glass to toast the Carters. Today we honor not just bravery, but integrity. These young men remind us all of the power of doing what's right, even when it seems small, because sometimes those small acts lead to extraordinary outcomes. The crowd erupted in applause, and Marcus felt his cheeks flush with embarrassment. He glanced at Jordan, who grinned back, clearly enjoying the moment. For once, they weren't just kids, they were heroes. Later that evening, after the guests had left and the house was quiet again, Lisa pulled her sons aside. "I'm so proud of you both," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've done more than I could have imagined. But remember this, no matter what happens next, your strength doesn't come from gadgets or missions. It comes from your hearts." Marcus nodded, hugging her tightly. "We couldn't have done it without you, Mom, or without Mr. Whitmore. And each other," Jordan added, joining the embrace. "We're a team." Lisa smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Always." In the weeks that followed, Charles continued working on Project Horizon, ensuring its technology would be used responsibly to protect rather than harm. Though Marcus and Jordan returned to their everyday routines, school, basketball practice, and helping their mom, they remained close allies to Charles. Whenever he needed fresh perspectives or innovative ideas, he called on them, knowing their resourcefulness was unmatched. But beyond the gadgets and adventures, the experience had taught them something far more important: the value of trust, resilience, and standing up for what's right. They had learned that even ordinary people could make an extraordinary impact, and that lesson stayed with them long after the excitement faded. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Marcus turned to Jordan. "Do you think we'll ever get caught up in something like this again?" Jordan shrugged, smirking. "Probably not, but if we do,